Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Denise. Morning, AB. Well, he's not on audio yet. There he is. Just got to unmute himself. And I'll be right back.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello, everybody.
tomorrow's
Good
the day,
morning.
Claudia.
Tomorrow is the day, yes.
Yay! She becomes a grandmother tomorrow.
I saw that.
Hey, Claudia, this is Eddie. I got a question for you. I just got a notice on my computer before I logged on that Comcast is having outages in my area. What happens if I'm in the, I can't vote because Comcast goes out?
What happens if you're, I didn't catch your last, what you said. What happens if you're in what, Eddie?
Comcast sent a message, I guess, out to people in my neighborhood saying that they're having troubles. We may have outages in the internet. I'm just wondering, what is there a contingency if my internet goes out that I can, and I can't get the vote, that I can get the vote?
Oh, yeah, I can send you the voting questions by email and you can respond that way. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it actually went out last night, about 10 minutes into Stacey Abrams' talk. So
That was wonderful.
well, the first 10 minutes were great. I didn't hear it.
Oh, right. Oh,
Hi, Claudia. I have a question too. Claudia,
Yes.
I made a little PowerPoint for when I'm giving my report just to keep myself on track. Will I be able to share the screen for that, or?
That is for the technical people in the room.
Okay.
So like Ryan, Bill, what, can Laurie just screen share?
If she's got the option down there on the bottom menu of Zoom, it should-
Okay, I'll just check.
I think
Yeah,
Bill
it was-
will have to stop before she will be before she'll be able to.
that is correct.
Yeah, because we already have a PowerPoint going on right now.
Uh-huh. Right. Okay, so yeah, it looks like I have a screen share, at least the arrow. Will that be okay? Otherwise, I can just talk it through. I don't need to share it, or I can put it in the chat.
What did it consist of, Lori?
It's just there's some links in it, and it's just, I'll send it to you.
If it's got links and things in it, that actually might be better to put in the chat because then they can actually click on the links.
True. Okay.
Have you got a future voter back there, Ryan?
oh, yay.
Very tired.
Yeah.
He just got back from the river.
Well, I'm very excited. I didn't get around to reading the things that Claudia sent out about the meeting until just, I think, a couple of days ago. So I now know that Ken Stevenson's our president-elect. And I have seen him so many times between now and that letter. He was probably wondering why I didn't mention it. We need whoever's on nominating committee, we really need a woman next year.
I know that that's a good idea.
Well, usually we tried to alternate.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
But then it kind of gets down, well, who will agree?
Right?
Yeah.
Who says yes?
Exactly.
Women are smarter, so they say no.
No, Matthew.
We had to work real hard to learn how to say no, and now we use it on a regular basis.
Right.
Hey, Seema. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Let me see if I
Chris
can
is
get this.
picking me up.
Oh,
I
sure.
always thought no was the first word a kid learns.
Yeah, it is.
This is true. They don't forget it till teenage years.
Brian, did you have your hand up? Okay.
I was applauding Seema.
In case people
Ryan,
don't know, Seema's kickoff is today.
Yay.
Municipal golf course.
Thank you, Chloe.
Well, I'm going. I'm so excited.
I'm really excited you're going to be there because I know you're one of my best cheerleaders and I need those.
Where is it going to
Ryan,
be?
what is
Seema?
your kid's name?
It's at the municipal golf course, which is on Shad Road, because I'm not a country club kind of girl, but I'm a municipal golf kind of girl, right? Today from 5 till 7
Yeah.
and Indian food. And I would love to see everybody. I love you guys. UU has put out, I'm not going to start my campaign speech right now. I love you guys.
Yeah. I would love to come, but it's my anniversary today. So
Congratulations.
Oh,
it's 1 year today. So
oh, yay, Matthew.
So happy for you.
well, it looks like it's 12:32 and we have a quorum. We have 64 people.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and start off the meeting so that we can let everyone respect their day and let them get on with it. Everyone, welcome to the annual meeting of the Congregation of the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Church. Here's our agenda. We'll have the call to order. We're going to confirm our covenant, vote to meet and vote virtually. We're going to recognize our volunteers and outgoing board members. We're going to have the nominating committee have a report, and we'll have the proposed budget and then vote on that. We'll approve the minutes for last year's meeting. The Endowment Committee is going to give us a report, as well as the Welcoming Congregation. The Technology Task Force and Strategic Planning Committee will speak to us. Mark is going to give a brief statement on the 8th principle, and then we're going to have any discussions anyone wanted on the bylaws revisions. Then we'll have the elections results, and we'll introduce next year's president so we can get this meeting started. Thank you all for being here and giving of your time. We are ready for. Go ahead and explain that we, the members of the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, enter into a covenant that we will abide by our principles, especially the first principle, when conducting our congressional meeting virtually. We agree to respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person involved. This includes no bullying, no racist, homophobic, misogynistic, or transphobic remarks, or remarks that would belittle or demean any of our participants. Failure to respect those rules and fellow participants will result in immediate dismissal from the Zoom meeting of the transgressor by the moderators. We enter into this covenant knowing we, as a congregation, respect and love our fellow members. The main reasoning behind this is just in case we have any Zoom bombing, which is Zoom attacks or Zoom raiding that is an unwanted intrusion into a video conference call by an individual causing disruption. We agree to keep all discourse civil, and remember, love is the spirit of this church. And did we have a vote on that, or is that going to?
We do, but I have now lost control of the polls. Claudia, can you take a look and see if you see the polls?
And also, I wanted to remind everyone, if you could, unless recognized, please try and stay muted.
They would be at the bottom of the screen, Claudia.
Yeah, it looks like, Mark, I'm getting a message that says you are logged in from another device. Your polling session is inactive.
Yep, that's what I'm getting as well. I don't know if there's somebody else logged in through the church's account. Chaz, are you logged in through the church's account? I'm just seeing who might be. All right. I'm going to try and go back out and come back in. Sorry, folks.
Okay,
We're
is
still-
Chris in the,
yeah,
is Chris in the meeting?
Chris is in the meeting. Yep.
Chris, are you possibly logged in as maybe under my account?
I am not logged in correctly, but I could log in and log out if needed.
That would be great. If you could log in, like maybe using the link from an email or something. Yeah.
Could we do a voice vote for the covenant just to move things along?
Well, we have to get this fixed anyway first, so we'd like to sort of.
I have a question about voting. Is at the bottom of the screen, I have reactions, thumb up, and all that sort of tears, laughter.
No, the
Yeah,
vote
yes,
will pop
no.
up on the screen.
I beg pardon?
The vote will pop up on the screen
Oh, thank
and
you.
give you options.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think your options, Jeff, if you want to put them in your notes, are only yes, no, or abstain.
Yes, I remember that from our meeting. I just didn't know where it was
Yeah.
going to come up, how I would exercise that vote. Thank you.
Claudia, do you see anything now?
I still do not.
Okay. I'm going to log out and try and come back in. So, all right.
Well, everybody, welcome to the beauty of Zoom meetings.
And bear with us during our technical difficulties. This group has done a great job with putting this all together.
This is Kathy Greenberg, who does a lot of Zooming, and I don't understand why whoever is sharing screen can't do the polling, because they'd have to be a host or a co-host to share screen.
It has to do with the licensing and the permissions. And I think the issue is that two people logged on, and as a way of Zoom being greedy, they lock features down whenever there's a conflict.
Oh.
So I think it's a feature thing.
Okay, I'm going to log off then because I'm logged in through that account. So I'll be back.
Please remind people again to mute themselves so we don't have background noises.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Make sure that unless you're recognized or speaking, please make sure that you're muted.
I had another question about voting. Will the vote numbers that tally appear somewhere? Will I have to minute that, or how would that work?
They should appear after we vote. We'll put the results up for everyone to see, percentages of how the vote went.
Thank you.
And I'm muted. Chris is back. I am going to launch the vote to confirm covenant. Okay. you will see an option for yes, no, and abstain.
And I think last year we gave like a minute for each vote.
Yes.
Since we're on one computer and it's Bove and me, we can only have one vote. So when you were counting, how did you count people?
The way we did that last year was that if if one household on one computer, we took the vote, and if the vote was close within like 10 percentage points, then we would go back and have to do it by household. Right now, we're going to do the initial vote as the Zoom meetings.
Thanks, that makes perfect sense.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are at 1 minute, so I'm going to end polling and I will show the results. Can everyone see?
We're close.
Okay, are we good, Matthew?
Yes, I was going to move on to the motion for the virtual meeting.
Okay.
We, the members of the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, vote to have our congregational meeting virtually for the 2021-22 year. Though our bylaws do not officially say this, that's not allowed, we are affirming that because of the COVID-19 pandemic and because our church is following proper COVID-19 protocols, we are voting virtually through a Zoom congregational meeting. All votes in this meeting will be valid, just as if we were meeting in person in the church space. We recognize the need to adapt, and that our church is not the building itself, but the people of which it's made. And now we can vote. And Bill, we lost the screen share.
Yeah, I know. I got a dialogue came up said that the host has stopped me from sharing.
That shouldn't have happened. I didn't do it.
I'll try to share it again.
Okay. There we are. All right, we are at a minute. I'm going to end polling and share results.
Yay, 100%.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing the results.
Okay, and this year we wanted to, well, first off, we want to thank Denise Coleman and Urban Williams for their membership on the board and Denise's presidency. So thank you, everybody. For the volunteers, and this is definitely not an exhaustive list, and I would suggest if you know of anyone you would like to say thank you to that's volunteered that's not on this list, go ahead and put them in the chat. But Doris Gove and Bob Grimmick have helped with our grounds. Thank you. And just recently, Barbara Lamb had helped create the food pantry out front, which seems to be a great success. And thank you to Dick Trowbridge and Greg's group for helping to build it. And for our online services, thank you to Bill Dabbs, Eric Hansen, a Little Brother in the Sisterhood, which is Carolyn Rogers, Denise Coleman, and Paul Davis. Technology-wise, thank you to Bill Pierce, who's helping us again today. And for their gift card volunteering, Eunice Turner and Dee Stevenson, thank you. And everyone on the COVID task force, but especially Nick Potter and Angela Hoffman. Nick is our own little Dr. Fauci, and Angela has been really great at helping us get out the word for everyone. And for thank you also to Taylor Thomas for the stewardship campaign, which is very important. And someone just mentioned Ken Stevenson also for his work on the grounds, and to Keith Hulse for the COVID task force. He came in later and we needed him as help for our have a mental health person on the COVID task force, which was really great. And thank you to all those unsung heroes out there that have helped so much. And we also want to thank our staff, And also Catherine said, thank you to the RE leadership. Definitely. They, I think they're all, some of them are on the staff also. I want to thank Chris Bice and Claudia Presley, Jametta Alston, Catherine Farmer-Loya, Miriam Davis, Michael Miller, John Montgomery, Chaz Barber, Cindy Buchanan, David Asbury, Mark Mahundro, and Christopher Watkins Lamb. Thank you all for your work with us. And now we have, I think Lori is going to give us the report from the nominating committee.
Okay, I will send you a link here to the PowerPoint that I'll be looking at while I talk. So that's in the chat. It should be shareable now. I wanted to contextualize this report just by, can you see that? Will it open for you? It's in the chat. Yeah, okay. So I just think it's useful to contextualize what the nominating committee's main charge was for any people who are here who are not already steeped in TVUUC governance. Our job is to identify qualified candidates for elected offices, congregationally elected offices, for the slate of candidates that will be leaders that we'll be voting on today. And I think it's always useful to remember that we have both elected officers, leaders in the church, and we have so many unelected leaders who are appointed or simply step up. And the way that the congregationally elected sort of system of democratic governance fits in with the many unelected leadership roles is through the program council chair, which is an elected office. It's useful, I think, for the congregation and also for the church members to realize and to kind of always have in mind how those two systems are working together. We've seen that sometimes the congregation doesn't really understand, members of the congregation don't really understand that. So our job is to, we're kind of the incubator for leadership and in general, because we can make suggestions for some of the unelected leadership roles. And then we are the channel through which new leaders step into elected positions. This year, we recruited a president-elect, secretary, treasurer-elect, 2 new board members, 4 endowment fund committee members, program council chair-elect, and I have something to say about that in a minute, and members of the nominating committee. That committee gets refreshed every year, just like the board and the endowment committee with new members. A few things notes to make about this year. First of all, we, as far as the endowment committee goes, on the printed ballot, apparently David Massey told me, I haven't seen it myself, but that Robbie McMurray is listed as the treasurer of that committee, but we'll just be electing him to an endowment fund committee membership role, and then that committee will elect their own officers. And that's how a lot of the committees work. That's how the democratic process sort of works through the whole church. And then we've made a pandemic year adjustment in the program council position. That year would have been up for a new chair-elect this year, and the chair-elect from last year would have stepped into the program council chair position. Because the pandemic disrupted things and made it difficult for the program council to operate as it normally would, we made a decision with support from the board and with through the agreement and actually the suggestion of the people who are currently in those roles, to just sort of re-up the same people who were in line for those positions last year into those roles for the coming year, so you can think of it as a COVID pandemic year freeze on those positions. So those are a couple of special things we did this year for those positions. One of the most important instructions for the nominating committee is to search across the church for candidates to get new voices, novel perspectives, fresh energy, updated skills into always coming into our leadership pool. And along those lines, I don't know if Juniper's here or not, but I'm really proud that way back when she came to our congregation the first time, we recruited her for the nominating committee. And that was the beginning of her service to the church. I was on the committee that year and got to know her, and I'm still really proud to help kind of add to the currents that we're bringing her into our community early on there, and now she's doing so many wonderful things. We tried to fling a wide net in 2021 despite the pandemic. We asked for recommendations. We used the directory and our church records extensively to make sure that we weren't leaving anybody out, because we were meeting on Zoom, right? So we couldn't see people all the time to remind ourselves, oh, there's a potential leader. And we tried to be mindful of diversity and inclusion in multiple ways, I mean, in all kinds of ways. Gender and gender orientation are important. So are just the years of connection to the church. We are a very diverse community in many, many ways. So we try to be mindful of that. And one of the ways to be mindful of that is to get a diverse nominating committee. So we especially paid attention to it with regard to refreshing our committee. We're thankful to all the leaders who answered our calls, our emails and texts. They made our job easier. I was apprehensive about an all online recruitment process, but with a really good committee that I'm thankful for, and I've just listed their names here, and people who were good and responsive to our calls, both with yeses and with maybes, and sometimes with straightforward no's. That's really helpful. Not this year, maybe in the future. It's just helpful to have people be responsive when you call. The key takeaway from our efforts this year is that leadership at TVUUC needs to be an ever-flowing spring. We're in a period of rapid change. We need new voices, novel perspectives, fresh energy, updated skills all the time. And so we actually sent a recommendation report to the board about some ways to make sure that that stream is refreshed and that there's a pull from previous leaders that helps pull new leaders into positions, and with the sense that they can get the job done with formalized leadership roles, systematic record keeping, mentorship, leadership development. We think that's important work for our current church leaders to pursue, just to keep the flow going. And this is to the congregation as a whole, ways that you can help. Get to know TVUUC's leaders and ask them about their work. When you learn more about TVUU governance, I think it's helpful maybe to imagine yourself in a leadership role, one that will stretch your skills in some way, or let you take your interests or skills and enrich this community. Update your directory information so that you can be found. share your skills and interests. And when the nominating committee calls, answer the call. So that's an important way to help us move along and move through our processes. Please, so that's my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But if not, I just want to wish all the best to next year's nominating committee, and just let you all know they'll be calling. So thanks.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Lori. And we will move on to our budget and Varen.
Greetings, everybody. I hope everybody is having a sweet summer so far before it becomes a sizzling summer. Yes, Knoxville, we have a deficit budget, but we do not have, I repeat, we do not have a collective attention deficit. The board and the executive team has paid close and deep attention to what our priorities are in terms of technology investment, optimum level and mix of staffing, COVID-19 upgrades, and capital improvements, and how best to create a resilient, vibrant, and a forward-thinking model to ready our church for the challenges ahead. The deficit is us. The surplus is us. We are the budget. Budget is a mirror, a glimmering reflection of our culture and our values. Yes, the pandemic has been a stress test, but it is also a silver lining as it forces us to reimagine ourselves as we all pitch in to make a better community. These are my few key takeaways. Number one, I kind of want to demystify the participatory budget making process so that every member of the congregation understands how we work through the numbers, how we come through the final product. So just imagine the participatory budget making process is just like taking your car to a car wash station, okay? So first you have all the guys and gals do the auto detailing, clean out your car, wipe out all the dirt, vacuum inside. Then you go to the car tunnel station. There is a soapy water sprinkler. Then there is a brusher, a clean water sprinkler, and then a dryer. And out comes the car, clean, dry, all good. So also is the budget making process. We get requests from various committees: worship, building and grounds, religious education, personnel. In that budget request, there is a page where the requester has to justify why they are asking for budget and give us reasons. So the board reviews each and every budgetary request. There is discussion and deliberation and stacking up the budget with the priorities and looking at the big picture. So it's a very rigorous, it's a very democratic, it's a very consensus building process. And I have to say with pride, I have full confidence in this whole process because it takes views from everybody. There are differences, the differences are resolved, and then we have the budget. So going forward, yes, we have a deficit budget, but our balance sheet is strong. We have good financing. The endowment fund is doing very good, and David Massey is going to talk a little bit more on that. We are also positioned for capital improvements for COVID or non-COVID related projects. Just to give you an example, the roofing that needs to be upgraded. We are talking about possibly a greenway connector where we can connect the 10-mile greenway to the church through the parking lot. It will increase walkability and access to the church. We are also possibly thinking about installing electric vehicle charging stations in the parking lot. So a lot of possibilities are there. but I want to take one moment to address the deficit in the budget. And I understand it is a very fair and a reasonable question to ask, that if the church is going through a deficit budget, why do a cost of living wage increase? And here is my answer. The church, there is no Lion King and no Queen Bee. We are all worker bees. A few of us are paid, but most of us are volunteers. The budget deficit of 31,000, as you can see from the screen, the 2.8 COLA increase is only about 10,301. The remaining 21,301 is due to a revenue shortfall. We are down by about 48 pledges compared to last year, which is equivalent to about $50,000. And it is possible those pledges may come in any time. But as a treasurer, the way I look at the 2.8 COLA increase, it's an investment in our folks that keep the place humming and buzzing. The number one challenge in business these days is not capital, but labor. Whether you're a mom and pop outfit or Apple or Amazon, the number one challenge is to retain and recruit good quality people. One of the reasons why I joined the church was the compassionate and caring people that I came across. Whether it was Bob Grimack hosting vegetarian potlucks, or whether it is Catherine regaling me with meaningful storytelling that brings a smile to my face, or whether it is Chris's thought-provoking sermons that make me reflect and think about our times, or the exemplary devotion of Matthew Blondell to our community, the wonderful music offerings from the choir, and our many wonderful greeters and huggers. A treasurer's job is to be in constant lookout for treasure. Our staff and team, they are our hidden and often overlooked treasure. The most important asset on the balance sheet is our own people. And in my closing remarks, I remember as a middle school kid growing up in Mumbai, and India always has this natural disasters and calamities and typhoons and floods and other man-made disasters too. So people in India, they love the mega loudspeakers, and they get into this big pickups and trucks, and they go through the town and city suburbs shouting for donation for food, medicine, clothing, etc. And one of the words, this is in Gujarati, they used to say, and it still revives fond memories for me, and they used to say, "Phool," phool meaning flower, "phool nahi to phool ni pakadi." And let me repeat that, "Phool nahi to phool ni pakadi." What that means is, if you cannot bring a rose to a banquet, then bring a petal, bring a stem. So I ask the congregation that please, we do need your time, talent, or treasure as we come to get this budget deficit in order and go for more funds so we can fund more programs, etc. So we all think you're all amazing. So click less on Amazon, but click more on TVUUC.org. Cut down on Starbucks, but put your bucks to work at TVUUC. Spend less on Dunkin' Donuts, but bring your dough to work here at TVUUC. We are nuts about you. So in closing, I have full confidence in the participatory budget process. We have good folks at the helm of our affairs. I have faith in your generosity, and I know that you will all rise to the occasion. I recommend this budget to the congregation and would like to put it for vote. If there's any few questions, I'd be happy to take them.
If there's no questions, then I guess we can put the budget to a vote.
Yeah, I don't see any hands up, Matthew, so I will launch the vote. There will be yes, no, and abstain, and you'll have a minute to vote. And we are at a minute, so I'm going to end polling and share results.
Okay, we have
Thank you all. Thank you.
96% yes and 4% abstain. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next order of business is just general housekeeping. This is a vote to approve the minutes from last year's congregational meeting. And we should have had that. That was included in the packet we sent out. So I guess we can go ahead and put that poll up.
All right, I'm launching it. All righty, we are at a minute, so I'm going to end polling and share the results. All right.
We have 89% yes and 11 abstained. And now we have a report from the Endowment Committee. So I'll give it over to David Massey.
Thank you, Matthew. The primary report is the single page that you received in your packet, which in turn references our 2020 annual report and our first quarter 2021 report. Those three documents contain the meat of this report. I just want to emphasize a couple of things for people who are not aware. The TVUUC Endowment Fund exists to provide long-term financial stability for our church and its mission. Donations to the fund are invested permanently in a mix of stocks and bonds using a moderate growth income strategy. Earnings from the fund support special projects beyond the reach of the operating budget. You can see a list of funded projects on the Endowment Fund website. The fund is managed by the Endowment Fund Committee, whose 7 members are elected to staggered terms by the congregation at this annual meeting. The balance in the fund as of today is $633,463, up slightly from the June 3rd report that you received in your packet. I just want to emphasize that the market since April of 2020 has been quite robust, but the fund can suffer market losses as well as realize market gains. So the most reliable way to grow our endowment fund is through contributions. You can contribute to the endowment fund with a legacy gift, such as a bequest in your will. If you have questions about legacy gifts, please visit our website or call one of us on the committee. Equally important are donations that some TVUUC members, and hopefully more TVUUC members, make to the fund on a regular or occasional basis. I want to close by extending the committee's deepest appreciation to our two outgoing members, Andrea Yates and Don Dougal, for their years of service to this committee and therefore to the future of liberal religion in East Tennessee. If you have questions about any aspect of the endowment fund, please call one of us on the committee or write to us using the email address in today's written report. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you all for all the great work you've been doing. And now we have a report about other great work we've been doing from Mark about the Welcoming Congregations report.
Hi, everyone. Just a little update as far as the Welcoming Congregation Committee. We became a chartered committee this year, and we elected our first officers, which are Maris Porter as chair and Elaine Smith as secretary. They will do great. One of the one of the things that the Welcoming Congregation does is in the UUA in 2017, they changed how congregations are designated an LGBTQIA plus congregation that is welcoming. Each year you have to meet a certain amount of criteria, and we made it through the first round and we made it through the second round. We were designated a LGBTQI plus welcoming congregation for the second year in a row. I appreciate everyone on that committee's hard work, and I am, I guess, the outgoing chair, so it's been great.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thanks for all the work. I am on that committee, so I know how much hard work has gone into that. Every year we have to do it, and we're happy to do it because it's worth it for our congregation. We now have a report from A.B. Coleman about our strategic planning and the technology task force. A.B.
I'm working on getting my screen share. Can you unshare your screen? Thank you. So the Strategic Planning Committee, one of the tasks assigned was to find a process that allowed more involvement of church members and friends. We found that lots of people had served and were burning out, and it was tough to get new people involved, particularly younger people. Primarily, one of the reasons were younger people didn't want to attend a lot of meetings because they had family and other things to do, and they didn't do email, they did text. So the Strategic Planning Committee went about reviewing the former processes. So we looked at every single strategic plan the church has done that we could find. We also found that many of the things that the church has done were actually stored on personal computers and people's emails, and we didn't even have access to them. We decided that when we looked at the way the goals were deployed, there were lots of terms used: goals, end statements, objectives, assignments, outcomes, and measures. And many people didn't understand the difference between the different terminology. So it was difficult to figure out where things stood. So we ended up creating something called desired result, what the end statements and means, and differentiated those. And we created a whole set of operational definitions for actually deploying the strategic plan. We then created a TVUUC mission canvas, which took the principles and the mission of the church, and we defined that into a one-page vision statement. We also then created a process for how you would take from the mission canvas and the governance to actually assign goals to the different committees and staff members. We determined that one of the primary problems with deploying the strategy for the church was the means of communication, and that constraint, the primary constraint then, was the information and communication systems. So we took that information, we got very consistent in terms of who had responsibility for which part of the plan, and that the board would look at the mission and principles, prioritize those, and the board would keep track of the input from the church members. They would then assign goals to committee chairmen and leadership of the staff, who would then assign objectives to committee members and personnel, staff personnel. We took a look at the current system, the information system that was a constraint, and what we found is that there's lots of different systems for communicating, emails. Every time we attended a meeting, we heard the terms, we need to communicate better, but nobody said exactly how we were going to communicate better. There were past myths who, in terms of deadlines, who had what assignments. And so we said that we've got to then get a handle on this, because what generally happens is people have their personal preferences for how they want to communicate. And if you have hundreds of people with personal preferences, then it's hard to match the data and make sure things are working together. So we took a look at what systems the church were using and which ones were primary. And the primary internal system is the RIM system, and the primary external system is WordPress. So we made a decision then that if we actually use one of the other tools that we had already in the church, Microsoft Office 365 and all of its components, that we could use the tools of Microsoft Office 365 to tie together the communications in WordPress and RIM and to try to create more consistency. To do this, we created a technology task force, and the technology task force consists of 3 members from the Strategic Planning Committee, which was Ryan McBee, Denise, and myself. We had volunteers of Michael Lowe, John McNair, Chloe, Mark Mahundro, Cindy Buchanan, and Daniel Buchanan. And I want to take a moment here to make special recognition of one of those volunteers, Bill Pierce. Bill has been involved with church technology since the beginning. He put in the first email system, he put in the first server, he's done the church podcast, he's maintained the website. So TVUUC is going to recognize Bill with a 30-year achievement award, which is well deserved. We would also like for anybody else in the church that wants to be involved in the technology committee to sign up. It's open. We have task lists on Microsoft Teams, and if you want to keep up with what's going on, what the assignments are, we have basically subdivided into 5 areas that we think are key for the church: audiovisual support in terms of the services and the choir, the main infrastructure in terms of which systems we're going to use for communication, servers and users, who has access, what are the privileges, how do we get input from our stakeholders, which are our members and our suppliers and the endowment committee. How do we make sure that we got and we keep track of what their input is and what it is they're asking us to do? And most of all, we need to make sure that our website is an effective, inviting place. So as people come to look or view the church, their first point of contact will be the website. So we have volunteers that have decided to lead these committees, and then staff members that will act as support for that. So we're asking you, any of you, if you want to get involved, you can contact us. We will give you an account on Microsoft Teams. You can get access to all the wonderful functions of Microsoft Office and help us actually figure out how we're going to communicate better and keep track of everything. And that's it for me.
Yes,
So
thank you very much for your in-depth report for that, because it sounds like a big task. So I think we're all up to it, though.
Wow.
So question for AB.
Yes.
So AB, so are we deciding to move to Microsoft Teams away from Realm, or how is?
No, I'm sorry. What we said is we're going to use Microsoft Teams as the glue between the website and Realm.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. So basically, there's lots of functions that aren't consistent between our website and Realm, and so we want to make sure the data. So if there's some information in Realm, we want that same information to be on the website.
Got it. Okay.
Next, we have before we start the voting, we also wanted to have Mark talk to us a little bit. I know we've been talking all year, and I think it's great work about the 8th principle.
Hi, everybody again. The board put together the 8th Principle Task Force last year, tasked us to educate the congregation about the proposed 8th Principle to Unitarian Universalism. The work on it started back in 2013. Many congregations have already voted to adopt it in advance of the entire UUA adopting it. Most recently, the Church of the Larger Fellowship. The Article 2 Commission, which you can talk to me about, and if you want more information about that, that was put together by the UUA board to look. We have to do it every 15 years as we look at all of our principles, all of our sources, who we are as a denomination. That process has been started. They will be looking at the 8th principle and discussing that, and will make recommendations to the UUA board in January of next year. It will be discussed at General Assembly next year, and final vote will take place the following year. The 8th principle proposed is we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppression in ourselves and our institutions. Finally, I would just like to thank the members of the 8th Principle Task Force, Eddie Chin, Alice Woody, Soraya Cooper, Chloe Royalty Waters, Seema Singh, Sarah Holzenbeck, Aisha Brown, Chris Spice, Matthew Blondell, and my co-chair, Jimetta Austin. They've done an amazing job, and I'm very proud to have worked with them. That's me.
Yes, and thank you all on that task force. It's doing great work, and I think that the work is just being started even after the vote today. So that's pretty awesome. I think that shows that we're being proactive as far as the rest of the denomination goes, and I think that's where we should be. The last thing will be if we have any bylaw questions. I got Linda Randolph here and any other board members to answer any questions about the bylaws changes. I did have one question myself. There was a discrepancy in our bylaws. The Finance Committee section says their treasurer-elect is nominated in odd years, while the Nominating Committee section says it's in even years. We're going to be making it going to be odd years, but does that have to be voted on next year, Linda, or can that be added to this one? Well, I saw Linda here earlier. Linda, you're muted.
We can make it now. We can make the change now. This is pointed out by our treasurer-elect, Bill Cherry. So thank you, Bill. So on page 7, under nominating committee, I guess it is. Yeah, we will change that even to odd. Through the years, this just needs to be watched, because through the years,
at least once, I think we've asked a treasurer to stay on an additional year. And one year a treasurer resigned in the middle of second term and someone new came on, and I don't know how that changed out. Are there any other questions or comments? Susan?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
In the bylaws, in the proposal, you refer to two particular individuals, a membership coordinator, that's in caps, and an office administrator in caps. And we don't have either of those people.
Michael Miller, you brought to the board to change his title to office administrator.
He has a new title.
Yes.
But those jobs get changed and merged. So having the bylaws refer to a particular position that doesn't exist seems, we shouldn't lock in to a particular position. We want to say staff, administrative staff, membership staff. I don't know what language you want, but as proposed, the bylaws would be locking in responsibilities to people that we have those titles.
That was intended to lock them in to particular titles.
But we don't have anybody with that title. We have no membership coordinator on our staff.
I believe Jametta is considered our membership coordinator.
That is not her title. If you want somebody who has the responsibilities for membership, that could be set out. But when you put in caps, a title, that refers to a particular job, and we have nobody we have nobody who is employed with that job.
An office administrator is Michael Miller's title.
I believe
looking this up now.
the current title for Michael is office administrator. The current title for Claudia, however, is director of finance and operations.
Yeah, I just popped that this morning.
As a general principle of bylaws, you should make bylaws flexible rather than putting in things like specific job titles, and allow other policies to direct that. That's
Jeff, we've done that in the past for some of these tasks, like getting stuff posted to the web. We've made it from specific to general because no one was doing it, and then no one continued to do it. So we're trying to get it specific to individuals.
Okay, but you now have it specific to individuals who don't exist. Maybe it would be better to give the responsibility to the executive team, who could then delegate to whoever they supervise that would be appropriate for handling that responsibility at that time.
It's important for these jobs, but it's not, but it is bad bylaw policy to be too specific in the bylaws about these things. I mean, sure, you should have president and so forth, but these jobs that change, because then you just have to go through a bylaw revision process, which is tedious. If you decide that Lauren Hulse is no longer membership coordinator and somebody else is taking that on who has a different title, and then it just becomes, it's rigor mortis.
Jeff, when we were both on the strategic planning committee, I asked about the director of administration being assigned to get things on the web because that wasn't happening. And you said, make it less specific. Well, it still doesn't happen. So it had to be made specific. That way it can go into their job description and they're responsible for it.
Bylaws that locks you into something that then you have to change by congregational vote when circumstances change.
Okay, so we'll change it when it needs to be changed.
But that's a year process.
If we adopt these bylaws, we are adopting responsibilities in the bylaws for a situation that currently does not exist. We have assignments made to 2 titled positions, and we have nobody, those positions are not in our current employment.
What positions are those?
We do not have a membership coordinator, and we do not have a director of administration.
Okay, we'll change Director of Administration to Claudia's new title. And we can put in Jametta's title under Membership Coordinator. Would that be okay?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with an assistant minister. If Jametta resigned tomorrow, we might change how those responsibilities are delegated. As we in the past, we don't have a membership coordinator. We have someone who carries out those responsibilities. But I really think that's something that goes in individual job description.
Okay, what about the staff who carries out membership responsibilities? The staff member who carries out membership coordination responsibilities.
That's fine. I mean, that was
Okay.
my issue. I would just leave it with the executive team, but.
If
Can
I
I
could
say
chime
something?
in, I think Susan and Jeff are making good points for flexibility to make the bylaws what we might call evergreen. We might add as designated by the leadership team or the board, just so that the job, the thing that needs to be done is not so much attached to a specific and potentially changing job title, but it's a set of duties that the board or the leadership team assign to someone. They could be staff members, they could be board members, they could be someone else, but the greatest flexibility in the bylaws language would be desirable.
Exactly what Bove said. It seems to me that you're trying to micromanage with bylaws that give you one chance a year to have a discussion about it. I don't see why specific job duties are outlined in the bylaws. It should say that
because the tasks were not being performed.
Linda.
Yes,
it
Bill.
should say, I mean, just let me finish and then I'll mute myself. But it seems to me that the bylaws should just direct the administrative team, the leadership team, Chris or somebody else to do those things. If the bylaws shouldn't outline every job description. And I don't see why you're clinging on to that, but it seems to me you're trying to micromanage with bylaws and it's making it impossible to change anything if staff change or jobs change, or I don't know, there's a national pandemic and people can't go to work or anything like that. So there you go.
We've had year-long discussions on these particular tasks not being done. So this was the resolution.
Well, try a different resolution.
Linda, you're absolutely right. The tasks need to be done. I think the concern is to make sure there's a flexible process to assign certain individuals to do those tasks. Because if we use job titles change, but the tasks will endure.
Or not get done.
It looks like Dave and Mary Jo have their hands up.
You're muted.
You're still muted. There you go.
Yes. On a different part of the bylaws, on the program council, and I'm speaking as a former member of the nominating committee, and we wrestled with this, and apparently it still needs to be wrestled to the ground. The title is Rising Chair. The title is not Chair-elect because it's not an election. It's an appointment by the board. And therefore, throughout the bylaws, the term should be consistent, of course, and it should be Rising Chair.
that position is being moved to nominating committee. That's why I put in chair-elect.
Is it in the bylaws? Did I miss that? In the bylaws change?
Yes. Okay, on page 7, under nominating committee nominees, chair-elect of the Personnel Committee has been added.
I'm talking about the program council.
No, it says
Oh,
chair. elect of the
that's
program.
wrong. That's wrong. I'm sorry. It's program council. I'm sorry. Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, so I think my point is still correct, which is that if a person goes to a vote of the congregation at the annual meeting, that would be an election. If the person gets into that position by any other method, they would be the rising chair.
Right, and actually this year's rising chair or chair-elect is being voted on. It's on part of the nominations that are up for voting. Alan Braswell, I think.
Oh, wait a minute. Chair-elect of program council is already there.
There, yeah.
That is supposed to be personnel committee.
Well, there's a note about the program council leadership. But I don't see, maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see that we're going to vote on a person, that we're actually going to take a vote on a person.
That's right. As far as I know, that this is Laurie. We voted last year to.
We who? I'm sorry. We who?
We the congregation voted to elect Alan Braswell as program council chair-elect. And as I explained, because of the pandemic, we're just counting last year as a lost year and letting him start fresh this year. But he would have, if we had moved forward this year with the regular, process, we would have, he would have become the new chair, and we would have elected a new chair-elect.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think I understand what you're saying is that last year, the congregation, and must be in the bylaws somewhere, that the title of that position is chair-elect. The process is for the congregation to take a vote on the nominee, and this would be in the future, obviously, after the pandemic.
Right.
And so then throughout the bylaws, again, to be consistent throughout the bylaws, the title of that person would be chair-elect.
Right.
Okay.
And what I said was an error, was not. As far as chair-elect of personnel committee, that is going to be moved back to nominating committee.
That's a good idea.
Mary Rogie, you have your hand up.
I think they straightened it out.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's really fun to do bylaws, isn't it? We're better.
It is, Mary.
I've got a question, and I appreciate all the work that everybody puts in on these important details. My question is about Article 2 membership under Section 4, reinstatement of membership. It just reads, anyone who has been dropped from membership database may be reinstated by requesting the membership coordinator for reinstatement. At the time, the member will be added back to the membership database. I'd appreciate a little discussion, a little clarification of the rationale for taking the section subject to meeting the rules for membership. And my question there is that, does this assume that somebody is dropped from it for a technical reason? Or could there be a substantial reason that the member was dropped, in which the member then might not confirm with the 3 first elements under section 1 of eligibility, which are at least 16 years of age? I doubt that would go in reverse. Who subscribes to the mission and values of TVUUC? Who considers TVUUC their primary place of worship, and who intends to actively participate in the activities and programs of the church community. So my question is why that it seems to me would be useful for folks to at least restate, reaffirm their commitment to those eligibility requirements, even if they've been dropped from membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We could say under section 4, may be reinstated by requesting the membership coordinator or whomever for reinstatement by reaffirming the eligibility requirements as stated in section 1 above.
I guess that would work. Mary, is your hand still up, or?
Please ignore that hand.
Okay.
I've raised my hand if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people with their hands raised. I saw Jeff. Miriam, if your hand's raised also.
Yes, I have a couple comments and questions on section 3 and section 4.
Under membership?
Yes, of the membership issue.
Okay.
Speaking as a database manager and scientist, information scientist, I am curious what is meant by the term membership database, and I am very uncomfortable with the concept of remove information from the membership database. That is generally not a principle of data management. To change someone to resigned is absolutely fine or inactive, but to literally remove information from our membership database is just not good practice.
Our current membership database is Realm.
Yes.
When we were going over all these possible changes, this is by Zoom, but we were checking Realm for members that some staff knew had dropped out or resigned or were no longer members. They were all still there. Also,
there is fine, because we have a membership status field, which tells us whether that person is a member, a current member, a former member, resigned, dead,
okay,
active, etc. And that's what we need. But we do not want to be removing people's information from our database.
Well, if you'll give me the wording on that, because I don't know how Realm works behind the scenes, if you'll give me the wording on that, then we can change to what actually will be done.
That would be great, because what we'd like to, I think doing what I'm talking about would allow you to do at any point would be to run reports. So you'd see a list of people who had resigned, a list of people who are former members. I mean, that's information you want to know, but if you delete it, it's gone. And then the next point on section 4 would require someone to add that back. Well, that's just duplicative effort. So I'd be happy to send you something so that we just track it in a field.
I don't know. Is that okay, Matthew, or should we have the wording right now to vote on?
I mean, if we want to have it changed right now, we would have to do it now. Otherwise, we'd have to have another congregational meeting to change the bylaws. So Miriam, what would be your suggestion?
let me look at this wording. May resign at any given time by giving notice to the church office. It could be period, but if you want more information, there's a member status field. That's what you need to use with the values that are there, which include, I mean, I'd have to log into Realm right now to look at it, but there are values of resigned, inactive, former member, deceased, visitor, prospect, you know, all of those things. And that's
the Office Administrator will then change the status of that member's information in the membership database, correct?
correct. And
So
then
we'll then change the member status
member
information.
status. I believe that that is the field, the name of the field in the database.
Another reason I used membership databases, I wasn't sure if we would continue to use Realm.
Right,
But,
sure.
okay.
And then we don't want to say added back. It would simply parrot the change you just discussed to say will be changed in the member status field. Thank you. That makes my database management persona.
Thank you for your expertise.
Much happier.
Claudia, did you want to say something? We'll go to Jeff Kovac.
Yeah, I can maybe give a little more light into the Realm process so that you all may feel a little more comfortable with that. Because one of the sort of cornerstones of membership is being a member not only with your time and your talent, but with your treasure. And so that means that you have made a pledge or that you have contributed. Realm has a fail-safe kind of thing in there where if someone has given, and this is just the way our database moved information over. So the way it is in Realm, if you have had a pledge or you have contributed any amount of money and you are listed as a member, you cannot be deleted. You can only be deactivated, which means then if you choose to come back, say you move out of the area, you tell us, please take me off your rolls. That doesn't mean we delete you. That just means you are deactivated. And so then you move back to Knoxville and you say, I want to rejoin, or I want to, you know, that kind of thing. So none of your information is lost. So it's not like we would be going in and deleting people. The people that sometimes do get deleted from the system might be someone that shows up as a visitor from, say, 2011, and they do not have a current address, they do not have a current phone number, they have not participated in anything since 2011, and we have no way to reach them. At that point, then they may become deleted off of there, but they are not members that are deleted.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification, Claudia. Jeff Kovac.
Yes, I move that in light of all this discussion and all the problems that have been uncovered, that the bylaw changes be referred back to the committee for further consideration and representation to the congregation at a subsequent meeting.
I mean, there have been quite a few changes. I mean,
that's a motion.
Right.
I'll second it.
It is discussable under parliamentary procedure if people want to discuss it.
Dave and Jeff both have comments.
My comments refer to something else. I'll keep my hand up, but talk later when that's relevant.
Okay. I have a question about this Article 2 membership. Also, Section 4, we sort of touched on this, but I don't think we dealt with it thoroughly. There is a phrase that says, subject to meeting the requirements for membership. That is, the bylaws committee has suggested that that be struck out. I don't see why we would want to strike it out. Shouldn't that person, I mean, heaven forbid, but let's say the person was discovered to be child molester. Wouldn't we want to know and require the person to show us that they meet the requirements?
I can't remember who, it might have been Mary, who suggested we say by reaffirming the eligibility requirements as stated in Section 1 above.
I do recollect that was mentioned a few minutes ago, but isn't that the same thing, saying the same thing as what that phrase currently says?
I think we struck that originally because of the, I don't know, because of the pledge to financially support the church, which we then later decided to strike.
Yeah, okay. Well, I go along with Jeff Kovac's motion to send it back to committee, and including that part.
We have lots more questions. Seema, you're muted.
Thank you. If we refer it back to committee, do we need to do another congressional vote and get together like this?
Yes, we'd have to at least meet a quorum. So we'd have to have 50 people meet together to vote on the bylaws. 50 members, I should say, to meet back to vote on the bylaws. Anybody else? Jeff, you still have your hand up? Jeff Miller.
Yeah, if we refer this matter to committee, are there other operative things that we need to have in the bylaws in order to function between now and the next congregational meeting? If we could take the issues that on which there's been a lot of change or discussion of change out of out of Jeff's motion, and if necessary, and vote on other critically important items for the further functioning of the church between now and next June. I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, I don't think we're waiting till next June, are we, Matthew?
Pardon?
We're not waiting until next June.
No, we'd have to call a meeting as soon as the bylaws committee put together a new edited and amended set of bylaws. And then we would just have to put it out there that there would be a meeting specifically for that.
Matthew, there's a motion on the floor which should be voted on. We can't separate out what Jeff Meller said until we dispose parliamentarily. We can't dispose of that until we dispose of the motion to refer.
Let me also ask Mark Mahundro, is the voting set up to vote on each actual amendment, or is the voting set up to vote on the amendments as a whole?
It is set up to vote as a whole.
Okay. Can we put a poll in right now on whether we want to postpone the vote on the bylaws?
Let me see if I can do that.
Is there any other?
Yeah, I think I can do this.
Matthew, does this mean if we're voting now on whether or not to postpone the approval or to send the bylaws back to committee, I guess that means this is then no longer the place to address any other comments about those bylaws, and we send those maybe to the committee.
We need to hear the other comments, please.
Okay. I have a comment then on, let's see, what section is this? This is Article 4, Board of Directors, about the youth representative. I learned in reading these materials to prepare for the congregational meeting that members can be members of the church, which it didn't say there was a special kind of membership, just members of the church can be as young as 16, which I did not know. And now that I know that, I'm wondering about these youth representatives to the board who would have half a vote. If they were in fact members of the church, is it correct that that member would have half a vote?
Would have to be 16. Is that what you're asking?
Well, if they were 16 and a full member of the church, is it fair that their vote on the board is only a half if they're equivalent to any other member?
Well, that's if there are two members. It's split into halves, and
I see.
If that's not fair, then we can change it.
I just think we need to be mindful that the youth, that if that youth is a full member of the church, then their vote needs to be the same as any other member of the church.
If it's a single member, then it is a full vote.
Okay.
Well, I think maybe, Linda, you can correct me, one of the reasons that may be worded that way, Miriam, is because if they had a full vote, then they would be a board member. And then they would have to be elected as a board member. And they're not nominated on the nominating committee. They're not elected as board members. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So but if they were voting, yes, that does make sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion before we?
Matthew, I have a simple question, and I want to get educated on this process. So this matter cannot be resolved at a board meeting. It has to be going to a congregational meeting?
Yeah, all bylaw changes have to be done by the congregation.
Okay, got it.
Okay, Mark, were we able to get a poll question on that?
Yep, it's ready to go.
Okay. Any more discussion before we vote on the what to do with the bylaws now? Okay, let's put it up there. Let's give it a minute.
All right, we've reached a minute.
Okay, it looks like it will be sent back to committee then. Linda, though, thank you for all the work you all done so far. This shows the messy work of bylaws and committee work. So
I appreciate everyone's interest in it. I've never even seen a discussion when new bylaws have been put to the congregation. So that's great.
Awesome. Well,
Matthew, we still have 2 hands up. Do
I
we
think
have?
that they just had not taken their hands down,
Oh, okay.
unless.
What
Jeff
about
and-
David, Mary
Jeff and
Jo?
David, did you all have questions? Okay, their hands are just up. Okay. I guess now we go on to the main election then, and thank you all. This is the way work gets done, actually, so. Are we ready, Mark?
Yeah, what are we doing? 8th principle first or nominating committee first?
Whichever. I mean, we're just doing all the vote.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm bringing up 8th principle first. Do I need to wait or just bring it up?
I'd say just bring it up.
All right. This is on adoption of the 8th principle. Yes, no, or abstain. All right, we are at 1 minute. I'm going to end polling and share results. Thank you, everyone.
There we are. Very good. 97% yes and 3% abstain. So it does pass. Very good. Okay.
All right, I'm going to bring up nominating committee. All right, it is up. Yes, no, or abstain. All right, we are at 1 minute. And there we go.
95% yes, no no's, and 5% abstain. Well, before I introduce our new president, first off, just to say, what a year. It's like, who could have predicted this? But I think that our church has shown that, you know, even through all of the challenges and surprises, we can keep on trucking. And before I introduce the new president, I want to say that I think I was really blessed to be bookended between Denise and Ryan. They helped me so much and provided so much support, along with everyone else on the board. I want to thank everyone for, I mean, it really did show me that it does take a village, obviously, to keep doing church. So thank you all. And I think we can definitely sail into the next year knowing that if we can get through last year, we can get through anything. So, and I'm really excited with what our new president will be doing. I have total faith in him and his vision, and I think we'll be doing new and exciting things. So I will now pass the baton to Ryan McBee. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for all your work.
Thank you, Matthew, for for your leadership during these unprecedented times. And I have thoroughly enjoyed working alongside you and learning from you. And I look forward to continuing our work together in the new year with the staff, the board, and the rest of the volunteers of the congregation. And with that, I will move to adjourn the congregational meeting.
Welcome, Ryan.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you, Matthew. Welcome, Ryan.
All right. Going to close out the meeting, everyone. Oh, no, actually, you have to do it, Claudia.
Thank you all.
Bye.